Dixie, what's up? How are you?
Hey, how are you? I'm good.
I'm
I'm
good.
good.
For all the listeners right now, Dixie is my cousin. What cousin are we? Are we second, third cousins, fourth cousins? What
Second,
are we?
second, second, second. Your mom's
Second
my first
cousins.
cousin.
Okay, so we're second cousins. So Dixie is my second cousin. About it was probably 12 years ago, 12, 13 years ago. I got into a business with another cousin of ours. It was called Visalis. We were selling supplements, and that kind of brought us into this fitness journey that we started around the same time that you started working out. So it kind of brought our little cousins together to work on, a business together, work on fitness together. We were all trying to kind of better our lives, I guess, at the same time. So it was a cool little journey for us to go on the short period that it lasted. Um, but I
It
wanted
was
to,
quite a run, though. We
yeah,
did
it
a
was.
hell of
It
a
was
lot of stuff.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. We learned a lot about business. We learned a lot about people, supplements, the fitness industry. Um, yeah, it was a really fun time, and I learned a lot during that time. But that was around the same time that you kind of got into fitness. And
I had started
so, what?
bodybuilding like a couple years, just really basic, just started going to the
Yeah,
gym because I think I was 42.
yeah. So, yeah, I wanted to go into that before you were 42, going to the gym. Let's kind of describe your lifestyle, before you got into bodybuilding and all of that. Like, what was your lifestyle like before you started working out? How old were you when you worked out? And that kind of thing. So just a little intro.
Yeah, that's a great place to start. Just being a mom, three girls, um, eating pizza, running the girls to their dance recitals, their sporting travel ball. I mean, they played every sport, and I was always the softball mom, or the scorekeeper, or whatever, bringing the snacks and things like that, and watched my husband at that time doing playing men's softball, and we got our cousin Steve, we got into some travel, or not travel ball, but co-ed ball in Columbus. Did you ever do any of those games with us? I can't
No,
remember. No,
no,
but
no.
there was a lot of beer drinking in between
Yeah, you do
games.
not want me. You do not want me swinging a bat. Yeah, I made it to t-ball. I made it to t-ball. I think when I was 5, and I think I still struck out, and so I decided that that sport was not for me.
Yeah, I had never played sports in school. You know how
Yeah,
my mom was. I mean, we traveled. I
yeah,
went to 12 different elementary schools, if that tells you anything. So, and
right.
there's only six grades, right? So,
Yeah,
um, so that was kind of my lifestyle until I was about 40-ish, and the girls were getting older, and of course, my oldest Amber had already been married and had a daughter of her own and her own family, and um, it was just kind of time. The girls were, they didn't want mom and dad in their life so much, they still played their sports, but they were in high school or whatever. So a friend of mine was competing, and went to Wheeling, West Virginia, saw that show. It was the Eric Finkhauser show there. And I fell in love with the sport. I fell in love with the athletes, their body, their look, their dedication. Because, come on, be real, females
yeah,
at that extreme low body fat really aren't sexy looking, beautiful, but
right.
the admiration and the dedication, that's where my heart went to. Like, oh man, I want to do that. I know I can do that, because almost anything I do or take on, it's 100% the best I can. And you always improve, take notes, you fail, and
Yeah,
then you
for
come
sure.
back. So um
So when you went to that show to watch your friend, what were you doing workout wise before that? Were you going to the gym? Were you going to Planet Fitness? Were you doing
the
anything
why.
before?
We had taken
Okay.
the girls. We had the membership through our city,
Yeah.
through the city employment. So we were going to the YMCA just for the swimming, taking the girls to racquetball. And they had their gymnastic programs and things like that. And we would start walking the track, and too, I think we talked about this before we got on here. My mom was sick with cancer, and I had been a
Right.
smoker for 30 some years, and I saw what she went through, and I couldn't do that. I didn't want to live that lifestyle. That was horrible, and so I quit
Yeah.
smoking. And I signed up at the YMCA to do the 5K New Year's Day marathon, your walk or run or whatever.
Yeah.
And I had quit smoking, went cold turkey. And how I did that, I would just tell everyone. I'd go to the
Yeah.
store like, "Hey, I quit smoking. Tell me you're happy for me." Just
Yeah.
anything to keep that motivation. And even going to the gas station, I think that was a time where you could start paying at the pump. I had no reason to go inside because the only time I would go inside is to buy a pack of cigarettes and pay for my gas. So now I had
Right.
no reason to go inside. And I would start telling myself, "You're a non-smoker. Why do you want to buy cigarettes? You're a non-smoker. Why?" All these things, just mind tricks. So I finished that year. Started off with 5K New Year's and finished it in the Columbus Marathon, the Jingle Bell race, and found out I'm not a runner.
Oh,
So that's when I
absolutely.
started going into the weight room with the kids, or
And that
by
was still
myself.
that was still at the Y. You were just starting to lift weights
Still
at the
at the
Y.
Y. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
still at the Y. And then the Arnold Classic comes around. So this is in 2007, 2008. And
Okay.
I was immediately drawn to that event, that the cage. That's where I wanted to hang out because they have a parent company, Universal, which was geared towards bodybuilders, but that wasn't my thing. I wanted to be in the cage with Animal Pak, and I was a bodybuilder. I didn't know I was a bodybuilder. Let me tell you a quick story on that. When I was
Yeah.
at another show watching a friend, and it was early, and they're like, "Oh, you look like a bodybuilder. Are you competing?" And I said, "I'm no." I'm like, "No, I'm just trying to be a bodybuilder." And they're like, "You look like a bodybuilder to me." And that's when it hit me. I was like, I am a bodybuilder. I am
Yeah.
a fucking bodybuilder. And
Yeah.
that's when I accepted that little, title or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, so where was I?
Yeah. So you went to the Arnold Classic. You wanted to be a
Yes.
part of the cage. You wanted to
But
be a
at
part of
that
the atmosphere. You want to be around those people. And then that's when
yeah.
the motivation started.
Yeah, so I started talking to the guys behind the counter and some of the lifters that were, doing their thing in the cage, and I realized that community didn't involve women so much, and
Yeah.
that's another thing. I'm going to throw these little side stories in. So,
That's fine.
um,
That's perfect.
when I started bodybuilding, to be a bodybuilder. I didn't want to be a bikini builder or bikini competitor or anything. And figure really wasn't my thing. I didn't have the body, the torso, the small waist or anything. My physique represented a bodybuilder physique. And so what did I have to look at to set my goals with? Because there weren't a lot of women bodybuilders. There were a few, but everything in our magazines, were
Right.
men bodybuilders. And that was what I wanted my body, not to look like a man, but to build that type of muscle and physique as a woman with a feminine side. So that was my goal. But it was hard. And
Yeah.
then a few years after I started this journey, NPC started taking out bodybuilding, and they started introducing the bikini girls, and they started introducing the figure, and they started introducing these other women division, trying to draw more revenue. And they started
Yeah.
taking out women's bodybuilding because they were afraid women were going to abuse drugs, abuse their body. And because there are some side effects when you decide to go pro, there are some side effects
Yeah.
that you've got to learn to live with, and be okay with,
Yeah.
as a young, I've had women come to me, young girls or boyfriends of girls come to me and was like, "I want to start my girl on this or that." And I'm like, I don't think this is the journey they want to do. Give them a couple more years, do what you can with what you have now, and then decide if you're going to make that next step. Because some
Right.
things are permanent, some things can't go back. You can't change it afterwards. So,
Yeah. Can you
so
can you elaborate? Can you
On
elaborate on, yeah, on like,
on steroid use or what?
yeah,
Or
or like, um, like if someone were to go into like the pro division, like, I mean, what's that like in a CrossFit gym, right? Like I'm in a CrossFit gym and we're doing some dumbbell snatches and stuff like that, but like what does it look like if someone is going pro, steroid use? I mean, like
all
what's
the
it look
drug
like? Some people,
enhancements.
what's that?
If it's they're drug or enhancements,
Yeah,
supplement enhancements, and there's a lot of peptides out there too that
yeah,
are. I'm learning more about peptides, SARMs, and things like that that are a
yeah,
lot safer, and maybe less side effects. You just have to
yeah,
kind of play, and anything you start, I know for me, less is always best.
hmm,
Take a little bit, do a little bit, see what's happening. Is it benefiting you at all? Is it causing, other issues, muscle soreness or joints, or it's messing with your sleep? Then it's not worth it. And if
right,
it is worth it to you, then you just deal with it and you move through it. But
yeah, yeah. So when you're going into like bodybuilding, for people listening and they want to look a certain way, like what's the look that you're going for? Like what's the look you're going for when you are competing in a bodybuilding competition? Does that make sense? I mean,
well,
like, it's like it's one thing to have a six pack and be shredded, right? Because you lost some body fat. And then there's the look of a bodybuilder, right? And it's like you can see every muscle on their body, you're working different muscle groups. I mean, if I'm going to be judged, what are people looking for? What's the
yeah,
judges looking for? Does that make sense? Like someone
yeah.
from outside the bodybuilding world, I'm trying to figure out, if I was in that world, what's the judge looking for? He's judging my pecs and my biceps and how big they need to be. I don't know, right? Like what?
If you squint real hard,
Yeah,
that's the first thing you
yeah,
want to do. And see, are things proportion? Is their torso real long? Or are their arms overpowering their chest? When they turn around and do a back pose, is their back overpowering their glutes and their legs, and it's always an ongoing process. You always try to
yeah,
bring your best package to the show, and then you work from there because you're off season. And I think a lot of people make this mistake. They want to be the biggest and the best, but they constantly are dieting, and stripping all their gains off. So it's really best to, take that year and go, I'm going to do this show and do this show, and you go through the process.
yeah,
You start. I mean, you got to have a fairly decent package overall, and you just start there, and that's what you build on. And so at the end, you go, okay, I need to put on a lot more size. I need to grow my legs. I always think if you grow your legs, that's the foundation, and everything else will
yeah,
kind of come from that. But some people's genetics aren't that way. Some of them are, you got great shoulders, you got great forearms, or your legs are great, but your calves are not, so,
right.
it's always that work in progress. But
Yeah.
so
So
you take that year
whenever,
off
yeah.
you
So
take that
whenever,
year off, and you decide next year I'm going to put on 50 pounds or whatever of a bulk. Hopefully it's a cleaner bulk with good type of foods, and not donuts and pizza and beer and things like that,
right.
because that's harder on your body. And you put on that weight, so especially these bigger guys, I had a competitor, a couple of them, and they're like, "Oh, I want to be big, like the Hulk. I want to be big." And I'm like, "Okay, well, here's where you're at. You're at 250. I need you at 310 in the
Yeah,
next 6, 8 months or whatever, and then we'll work on that." That's too much, because you got to buy bigger clothes. You got to be comfortable with not breathing and, huffing and things like that. And of course, I'm not going to, there are some athletes you can go out there and do sprints, but, most of us,
Yeah.
we don't want to tear up those muscles or anything. So, and that's the difference between a power lifter and a bodybuilder and the physique look. If you're a strong power lifter, your muscle, you don't break down the fibers. You keep them connected, so to say, like a brick.
Yeah.
And that's what I was finding out when people were going, "You're so strong, why don't you do some powerlifting?" And I really wanted to. I could have broke some records for my age and being a female and things like that. And I started the process at Westside with Matt Smith, and he
Yeah.
would take me up and see Dave Tate up there at Elite Fits and stuff. And I worked my ass off. And I mean, he took my bench from 190. As a bodybuilder, I wasn't, really working on strength or, I was trying to build fluff, which to go back to that, as a bodybuilder, we want to break those fibers down so they get those bellies of muscle and you keep them flooded with water. That's why creatine is so important. You got
Yeah.
to take that creatine to keep those muscles hydrated, and creatine will dehydrate you if you're not drinking your gallon of water. So
Right.
they help you drink water and it helps you keep your muscles. So as a bodybuilder, you want to tear those fibers so you can build on them. Actually, I don't know if there's like little scar tissue in there that grows. I don't remember that. I used to. But anyway, so as a power lifter, you don't want to tear them. And
Yeah.
so he took my bench from like 190 to 245 in like,
That's
I don't know,
insane.
6 weeks. 6 weeks, because that's how strong I pulled up. Um,
How
I
old were
had
you when
someone
you
send
pushed
me the Russian
245?
method to
Yeah,
build
for
my
sure.
strips. But I was 40.
245 at,
Yeah, probably about
yeah,
45.
man,
And
that's
I did
crazy.
that little power meet there in Lancaster that Jack Fitness, the gym, had there. And I got 245. I was preparing. That was, I think, in March of that year. And I started working with Matt in January, like the end of December. That's when he gave me some training to start, preparing me for his training in January. And he got my bench to 245, and I was supposed to compete in like April or May. And I couldn't do it because we were in a session. I was training. My triceps and my back were strong for the weight. We would put bands on and, do these crazy exercises, and I would beat all the guys that were there.
Yeah.
We had like, there was like 600 pounds on that, but there was bands as an assistant or whatever. Mine being not 600 pounds, but there was a lot.
Right.
But my joints couldn't hold it. And so the joints in my wrist, oh my God, that hurt so bad because we were trying to get my bench. I wanted to do an opener of like 245, then 300 or 285, 300, and end on a, 305 or whatever on my bench. Whether I made it or failed, that didn't matter. That was going to set my goal for my next meet, something like
Yeah.
that. But my joints just couldn't handle it. It was too much, too fast, or whatever. And to talking about the muscle in the belly, the muscle, like, when I flex, I want to, I want a
Right.
bicep, but it was getting dense. It was becoming flat and really nothing happening there. So I was like, that's not the look. And two, benching, Matt kept saying, you got to put some weight on. You got to put some weight on. So I was probably around 160, 165. And I had to eat so much food. I was weighing 208, 210 as a correction officer. And my
Yeah.
uniform was screaming. I couldn't breathe. I worked the avenue, sometimes.
So you went from two, so you went from 160, would you say 160 to 208
Yeah.
without
Yeah.
just crushing donuts? I mean,
Without person, don't, no.
my
No.
goodness.
And that was
I
from
need I
January
need
to
that
April.
meal plan.
Huh?
I need you to send me that meal plan.
I was always hungry. I was
Yeah.
always hungry. Never,
Yeah.
you know. But I would eat, I would prepare, 4 to 6, 7 meals a day, and just kept my metabolism was on fire. So that's what I thought. This has been kind of a little journey, and we'll get into more of this later, but I want to tell you now. Um, since I was competing and I got this spinal stenosis and all this health issue crap. So
When was
from
that?
2000, 2018, in that show that I did, my last show when I was trying to get my pro card, and I came in fourth. I believe I probably could have came in second, maybe won it. I don't know. But that was in July of
So that was,
2018.
let me see if I can find that. Um,
On my Instagram is my first pinned photo of that show.
okay, so in
Um,
2000, so in 2018, let's see. Boom.
yeah.
There we
I was
are.
in so much pain in that show because of my back.
How
That
old
I
were you
believe
in how old were you in this show?
um 52, 50.
52.
Yeah.
Okay, so you had been doing bodybuilding for probably 6, 7 years at that time? Maybe?
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Probably roughly. Okay,
Yeah.
so right after that show, or possibly before, you were diagnosed with.
It was spinal stenosis. I didn't know it then. So that show was in
Oh, okay.
July. And about
Yep.
April, I mean, I looked good. I was stage ready for that show in July, probably by March or April. I was stage ready. I could have went on any stage.
Right.
But I noticed my back was starting to hurt. And like people were like, do yoga, do this stretching, do this, do that. And so I had to cease almost all my cardio, and I would just walk. That was my cardio for that show. And I just would train what I could because the pain in my back, it was terrible. I Everything was paid for. The suits were paid for, the hotel, my coach, I'd already given him plenty of money. All my supplements, my tanning, everything was paid for. And I really didn't want to do it because I didn't know if I could. It hurt so bad. Every time I flexed, my legs would go numb. I'd get electrical shocks and I would just cry. And I talked to my coach, Sean, and a few other people. They're like, everything's paid for, just go out there and have fun. Just do whatever. Just go through the atmosphere, go through the process, and because too, this whole career of bodybuilding, of course, I always wanted to win, but I just
Yeah.
wanted to show myself that I could do this. That I'm living the life that I wanted to live, whether I win or not. And so each stage, each time I progress, I was just so fucking happy to be there. I was a goofy.
Yeah.
I just wanted to have fun. I was just so gracious and grateful for all the support that I got to get me there and all the work that I put in. And my
Yeah.
confidence was like, blown out of the water. And so I went and did the show. And like I said, I came in fourth. It was cool. But like the 60-second routine, I had to cut it short like 40 seconds. I couldn't do it. It hurt.
Yeah.
and and so that was over and I went home and to drive into Pittsburgh, being on a prep brain, I
Yeah.
can't tell you how many U-turns I made, and, because you can't think. But, I was like, I'm doing this. I'm doing this. So luckily I got there and everything. And, but I get home and I'm like, I finally go to the doctor. I'm like, something's wrong with my back. Cause you pretty well know your body, when you're doing this stuff, you recognize little things. And I'm like, this doesn't feel like a nerve. It doesn't feel like, like a pinched nerve, like a sciatic pinched nerve. It didn't feel like a strained muscle or anything like that. And I thought, I went to him, I'm like, I think I got a fucking disease. I think I'm dying. Like something's
Yeah.
wrong. I would
Right.
yawn and I would get pain all the way down my leg. My legs would shake like this, and I couldn't stop it. I mean, I couldn't stop. It was horrible. And people would tell me to do yoga, and every pose that I did was the wrong thing that just aggravated. Because what spinal stenosis is, the doctor told me on a scale of 1 to 10, I was a 12. Like I needed
Yeah.
surgery, but there was no guarantees that the pain would probably always be there. But what it would allow is like the spinal cord runs through your spine, through the vertebrae or whatever, and it would, my body fat got so low, and the cushioning in between the vertebrae was pretty much, there was like no fluid or whatever, and it aggravated my spinal cord. So there's no surgery to repair the spinal cord, but
Yeah.
what they can do is clear away more space so when it gets inflamed it doesn't pinch off, because it's in my hips, it's right down before all the nerves branch off. So
Yeah.
it messes with your bowel movements. You can pee your pants, the sexual things, you're like, it messes with all that. And now it has moved up into my neck, and that's what some of this issue is on my left side. um so that's what I found out, and surgery wasn't going to help. It could alleviate the potential for
Right.
aggravating it, but there was no 50-50 chance whether the pain would go away. And of course, they didn't even want to give you an antibiotic, thinking like it's like crack or something. That's how
Right.
bad it was. So I just opted not to do surgery, and depression, depression set in. I had no way to really. I couldn't even walk to the mailbox. That
Yeah,
like
because you stopped working out, right? At that
I
time?
had to. I couldn't even walk.
Yeah.
Um, it hurt so bad. And even to go into Walmart, and thank God for like their apps, and like Kroger's, like I would just order, and like I'm in lane 5, because I couldn't walk through the store to get my groceries. And
Yeah.
and I always I do have a sense of pride, when I would walk from my car to go into Sherwin-Williams to get my paint or whatever. I try to walk with some, confidence, like I'm not in pain, because I don't like that.
Right.
I
Yeah.
need that help, but I don't like asking for it. They're like, oh, we'll
Right.
carry that. No, I got it,
Right.
because that's who I am and who. But, so I just learned now to take my breaks. I go slower. Painting a house, if it would normally take me a week, I'm going to take a month to do it. I might get it
Yeah.
done in a week if things go well, but if it doesn't, I can't hurt myself.
Right.
I'm my sole prior, I got to pay my bills. So
Yeah.
same way within the gym. And I tried to go back to the gym in that 2018 to now, a time or two. I got a membership at the Y, and that's when I thought I might have surgery, because things weren't getting better. I've been dealing with it for like 5 years, and it wasn't getting better, because I've had some rotator cuff issues and didn't do surgery. It healed up within 18 months, 2 years or whatever. And I was able to use it and not have to risk infection, or, having it be worse or whatever. And that's what I kept thinking I'm going to do with my back. It's going to get better. I would think of an injured wolf in the forest or whatever. If they get hurt, they're not having surgery. They just learn to adapt. And that's what I wanted to do. I'm just going to learn to
Yeah.
adapt. And so I would load up on ibuprofen, those
Yeah.
big bottles. I would go through one of those every 2 months, like candy. If that was another thing I told the doctor, he's like, so what do you take for the pain? I'm like, a lot of Motrin, a lot of Tylenol. I said, doc, I'm to the point. I just put them all in one bottle, and I just would shake out whatever came out. That's what I took. And I would do that
Yeah.
probably 4, 5, 6 times a day. And they're like, aren't you sick? He's like, do you have ringing in your ears? And I'm like, boy, yes, I do. He's like,
Yeah.
that's because that's from the Motrin. You've got to chill out. And I'm like, well, give me something for pain. Well, I can't do that. So that's when I tried, what is it? Kratom, or whatever. Have you ever heard of that?
Yeah. No.
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 It's like tea leaves ground up, and you get different strains of it. And my coach had told me about this, and it did help for a while. It took away some of the pain. And
Yeah.
there's more local shops, because it does work. And
Yeah.
because I'm not a weed smoker, well, I
Yeah.
do sometimes now, because
Right.
I'm able to like stretch and get things moving
Yeah.
again. So
Are you able to work out again?
I have started working out again. Um,
Yeah.
it's just time, I guess, because that's where I was going with my other story there. I would go to the Y. I got me a membership. I couldn't do it. And they actually put my membership on hold for like 11 months because I told her, I said, I got this membership in Lancaster thinking that it was like the Y in Circleville where they had the jacuzzi and things in the pool where I could start doing something and take some of the relief and the pressure off my back. And and they didn't have the jacuzzi in Lancaster. So I would use their steam room and the pool, but it wasn't getting the job done. And I said, can we put this on hold? I might be having surgery. And she said, yeah. So they did. And I tried coming back and doing some things, but I couldn't lay on the bench. Everything I tried, if I tried to bench, my back hurt. If I tried to shoulder press, my shoulder hurt. If I tried to um, do anything, everything just kept hurting. I get trigger finger. It was just like
Right.
obnoxious. So I just stopped again and focused on working because I thought if I get hurt in the gym, this is stupid. If I get hurt
Yeah.
doing this, I can't paint. But I needed a way to relieve stress because I couldn't do my hikes anymore. I couldn't do, cardio. I couldn't work out. I didn't have any way to release or get,
Yeah.
the workout high. I couldn't do it. And so that's when depression set in. So then I went to a psychiatrist for a while and I told her this stuff. And we tried these medications and it did help. Like some of the depression would start to come and then the medication or whatever would kick in and I was able to move through and get past the day. Where before depression would set in and there would be a week 14 days. Like I didn't know what day it was. All my blinds were closed and I didn't care because I was in pain. I was depressed and so I never knew what day it was. It could be Monday, it could be Friday.
It's
I could
crazy.
have slept from
Yeah.
Tuesday to Saturday and I don't even know. That's how bad it was. And
Yeah. Yeah. I think people don't understand how important the gym can be when stuff like that happens because you rip it out of your life. It's a totally different thing. So,
yeah. Thank God for
and then
social
now,
media though, because I got to
right?
hide behind that, and I got to watch other people because people are like, what motivates you? And I'm like, you motivate me.
Yeah.
Watching you vacuum your house motivates me to get up and wash my dishes. Something
Yeah.
so small and, minute as that. So,
Yeah. And then, so recently you've become like an Animal Pak ambassador. And so, like, I want to take it back all the way to the beginning where you said you wanted to get in the cage, right, with those people before you
yeah,
really started getting after it, right? And so,
yeah.
that was the Animal Pack, right?
I love
Time,
Animal.
right?
I love
Like,
the
that's what it was,
community.
right? Like, inside the cage.
Yeah,
So, um, so a lot of the people listening, the Arnold Classic it's a giant fitness convention that has all different types of, um, fitness events, whether it's bodybuilding or weightlifting or supplements. And so
And
there,
outside the convention, you
yeah,
got your powerlifter, you got your CrossFit, you got your kids gymnastics, you've
yep,
got every sport,
weightlifting, everything, yeah.
everything. Yeah.
And so if someone were to go to the Arnold Classic and they see this cage, can you explain to the people what the cage means? Like, what is the cage?
It's a bunch of crazy motherfuckers getting
Yeah,
PRs is what it is. The
yeah.
music is loud.
Lots of
It's old
smelling
school.
salts, just
Blood coming out the nose,
yeah,
sweat, screaming. I mean, it is just fabulous in there. It's definitely
yeah,
is like, because they set it up, we set it up like a gym. You've got your weight bench, you got the weights, you've got the lift, everything is there. And just the cage, they put the fence up, and it's been different. And I haven't been for a couple years, especially with COVID.
yeah,
I think I went in 2019 and then COVID hit. And I tried to go last year, but I was in the process of trying to find a place to move and it just wasn't a good time for me. And
yeah.
And so
So
once being back in Circleville, I'm like happy and being back with animal. I think this year, well, 2025 here in just a few hours is going
yeah,
to I think this is going to be an extraordinary year. I think it's going to be a comeback for a lot of people, a lot of companies,
yeah,
a lot of old school, a lot of things that kind of got lost in, the last few years or whatever. So,
yeah.
and we're
And
going to
so
make it
what?
healthy.
Yeah. And so I mean, Animal Pack, they're in this cage in the Arnold, and they're
Yeah.
lifting all this weight. But what is? I mean, what's Animal Pack? Like it's supplements.
Yes, it's all.
Stats.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they have great, a lot of people have, if you compete, or not even compete, if you just work out. But mostly, like I said, Animal Pack came geared towards the power lifter, the strongman
yeah,
community first or whatever. And of course your bodybuilders. But I swear by all their products, they I used to be a coordinator. Well, I probably am still a coordinator with them, and I would put together these local events, or maybe I've traveled all over Ohio. I've been to hundreds of different gyms, and I would try to get the people in that community to come to one gym and just train or just learn or just work out. Bring your questions, come get some free t-shirts, try some free supplements or whatever. And if I could get an animal athlete um, to come, like uh, Brendan Lilly, he came to an event.
yeah,
Eric Finkhauser used to come to a lot of my events because he was fairly close or whatever. And we love doing this. Um, that's where I kind of got really connected with the community, because the brotherhood, the sisterhood is like, it's like no
yeah,
other, especially if you're military minded at all and you like that camaraderie or whatever the word is,
yeah,
of your group. That's what the fitness community is, and that's what Animal Pack is. That's what your gym is. It's like a
yeah,
community of like-minded coming together to share stories. Um,
yeah,
so that's kind of
yeah.
what I
So
brought to the table.
when you speaking of supplements, a lot of people ask about, they ask about supplements here at the gym. They ask about it in bodybuilding. Um, mixed with nutrition. I always tell people, supplements are only as good as, your diet, right? So it's like people try to out supplement their diet, or they try to outwork their diet, and you know how that is. But when
Diet
it
is
comes to
80%.
yeah, and when you're, so when you're bodybuilding, and you first start off, you start trying to put on a little bit of weight, you try to get shredded, are you doing creatine and protein just to like get some sort of look, right? Like, is that kind of the go-to?
Well,
Just like, hey, make sure you're taking enough protein in, make sure you're, I mean, make sure you're having your creatine. And then obviously there's like some stuff on top of that, but like you take those and then you dial in your diet first, right? Is that kind of, I mean,
something
is
like that.
you started like later in life with the workout process, right? So it was like, okay, you're 40 something years old, you got to clean up your diet, and then you start, um, yeah, you got to clean up your diet, you start lifting, you start looking better, you start taking supplements, right?
Right, right.
Um,
And we kind of learned this when we did Visalis. People, I want to lose weight, I want to lose weight. And you can help anyone lose weight. And this is where your nutrition comes into play. People want to watch calories, which is fine. But when you're trying to dial in a certain physique, or um, whatever your competitive sport is, your macros are what's important. If I was a marathon or a sprint runner, I'm going to want more carbs, to sustain that energy. As a bodybuilder, you're going to want more protein, what is it, 1.5 times your lean body mass weight. If you're
yeah,
200 pounds, but you're 40% body fat, your lean muscle mass is probably 135 pounds, if you strip all that off. And that's what you want to base your protein intake on, is that lean muscle mass, and what your goal of your lean muscle mass goal is. Um, so to start off is 1.5% of your lean body mass. And then if your goal is to be 200 pounds machine of lean muscle and, you know,
Right.
12, 15% body fat, not ready, that, that's a different story. But um, you want your protein intake, because the only thing that's going to grow your muscle is your protein,
Yeah.
and you got to have some fat. You can't take out all your fats because your brain thrives on fat. Your body will literally eat all of its muscle and
Yeah.
maintain the fat if you don't keep enough fat intake. So those macros are important. And if you're just starting as an athlete, you need to know where your
Yeah.
calories are falling into. And
And
because
then do you
I
find
can
that?
make you lose weight with a dozen donuts if you want me to, but your body's
Yeah.
not going to
Right.
represent what you want. So
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And um, so if I'm eating right, and then I'm taking supplements, then I start getting into like some PEDs when I'm doing bodybuilding. Do you find that people start experimenting with that too soon before they have the other things in check in their life? You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
they start messing around with some of that stuff before they get their diet and their macros in check, and then they
That
start
is
running into some issues.
Yeah, and that's really sad. I've had fathers with their sons in high school going to be great athletes, and they probably are. And some moved on and were, and they wanted to start them on test, or they want to start them on this or that. And I'm like, dude, don't do
Yeah,
that. There's plenty of time to do all that extra stuff. Make sure your kid is, die hard. This is what he wants to do. And then, the end goal is to be that pro football player or whatever your goal is. But if you start all that, because like your very first cycle, there's nothing way cooler than that first cycle, and you'll never achieve that, oh my god, kind of feel ever after that. And you don't
yeah,
want to waste it on a 17-year-old physique that's not mentally ready for that yet. And same way with these guys, or with their girlfriends. I want my girl to lose some weight. Well, can we start her on antivirus? Like, what has she done so far to
yeah,
work on those goals, because this isn't a miracle drug or whatever. You still have
right,
to diet, you still have to work. You'll just achieve it a little quicker,
yeah,
or you could, but it could ruin you if you're not prepared, if you don't know all the side effects, if you don't know the history. Um, I've had some girls that I've talked to in the gym take Anavar 5 milligrams, and their voice changed like, and I'm like,
yeah,
did you take something else? And they're like, no, because antivirus is traditionally the most safest for a female athlete,
yeah,
and for guys. But to start on, it just helps burn some body fat a little quicker, and it helps to build some muscle. And a range for a female is usually 5 to 20 milligrams, and you can be safe, but you want to do a little bit, and I would come off and just see what happened, because things aren't immediately, just like your antidepressants. It takes a month to feel if this is working for you or whatnot. And same way
yeah,
with steroids. Do a little bit. If you're just testing the water, do microdosing. Do a little bit. Wait a week, 2 weeks, a month, or whatever. You good with that? All right, we're gonna
yeah.
push it a little bit more. We're gonna push it a little bit more,
So then
and
what's the big so what's like the big difference between, like TRT, like some testosterone replacement therapy, and just straight up testosterone juicing? We're gonna call it juicing
gonna
for the
call it
podcast. Juicing for the podcast sake.
here.
Just like,
Let's.
yeah, like just for like, I mean, like, so a lot of
It's all
people do
therapy.
like to, yeah. So like a lot of people will do like testosterone beads, which is like slow release testosterone, which is supposed to naturally
Are you talking about males
release
or females or both?
males first,
Females do
or
that
both.
too.
I mean, yeah, or both. Yeah, yeah. There's
Yeah.
people that do that both. Um, what's the difference in something like that? And then is it just the levels that you're putting in? Is that the big difference? You're
I
putting
don't
in,
know that much about
yeah,
the inserts in the skin, things like that. I
yeah,
know a little bit. I don't know any men that do that. Men
Okay.
will usually do the injectables, or there might even be creams. There's probably orals and stuff. I don't know.
Yeah.
In the
Okay.
bodybuilding world, it's all injectables,
Yeah.
unless you're doing anavar, then. But
Yeah.
so your testosterone, and again, this is into a world that I don't know. I've got my notes that I go back and refer to, but I don't keep it like between 7 8 and um,
Yeah.
test E and all that. I have to go back because that's not what I focus on for me. If
Yeah.
I'm
For sure.
competing, and I want to test the waters, that's when I go back and I dive into my notes. That's when I can start researching again. And because I've tried, I've been down the road on several things, and some things like Mastrome is not for me, not for me.
Yeah.
Terrible side effects immediately. Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I think it's
what do
this
you-
world of. I think the bodybuilding world is this like this underground place that people don't know about, right? And so from the
It's the
outside
dark
world, people,
side, baby.
right? You know what I mean? It's that cage with all the people lifting heavy, right? So it's like people are they're so curious about it, and but sometimes they don't have the confidence to ask the questions that they want. But
Yeah.
it's just it's kind of like this underground world, and they're like, what are they doing?
It's
Like, why
becoming
are they?
more
You know what I
open
mean?
now,
Like,
and
yeah,
it's
and it's
more,
more open, and that's why we're able to sit here and have an open conversation about it. But I
yeah,
feel like
yeah.
15 years ago, it was just kind of like everything was secretive about what people did.
And
Um,
there's probably some athletes that died of, not being informed. So that's what these podcasts are for. You've got to put the information out there. Make sure people are doing their blood work. Make sure you're doing it right. Don't go off of Joe Blow because he's probably a fucktard.
yeah,
Don't do
yeah,
that. Go to where the pros source is, and there's plenty of websites, and I can definitely link you up with plenty of people that will set you on the right path to do what you're
right.
supposed to be doing. If
Um,
I can't help you, someone I know
oh,
will.
for sure, yeah. Everyone's got connections.
Yeah.
So let's change it just a little bit. Lifting over like the age of 50, like was there any like challenges going into that? Gaining strength, gaining muscle. I mean, you were bench pressing 245 at almost 50 years old. I mean, that's insane. Knowing that you started at right. I mean, that's
Yeah.
insane.
And I never picked up my first, weight until I was 42 or 43, never played sports. And I was
Yeah.
like, let's do
So it's
this.
just
It's
consistency,
mindset.
mindset. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
remember training, a female athlete, and I don't know. I think she was in her 30s and doing bench, and we just put the bar on, and she's like, "Oh, that's pretty lightweight." And then I would tell him like, "Don't I want you just looking at the ceiling or whatever. I'm gonna mess with your weights, and we'll see." And I may have thrown a number out there, like, let's do 90 pounds. Oh my God, I can't do 90 pounds. And I was like, you just did 90 pounds. What? They didn't even
Right.
know that, but they were afraid because the numbers seemed high or whatever. So I try not to pay attention to what weights I'm picking up. I'll just pick one up. And if it
That's
feels
right.
too light, I'll rep it out. And then the next time
Yeah.
I'm going to pick up something heavier. And if it's too heavy, I'll put it down, do something
Yeah.
else. Like I don't try to look at the numbers or,
That's awesome.
I just go
Yeah.
to failure every time.
Yeah. Um, so you lifted, you did that show, some health things came up, got back with Animal Pak, you know.
That kind of
Uh
brings me to where I'm at now.
yeah,
Yeah.
and so now you're kind of where you are now. What's your future goals? Like anything personal fitness wise or just building this business or like what's going on? Like, what's 2025, 2026 look like for you?
Uh, first of all, being back in my hometown is amazing. I am so happy. Like I just got chills. Like I am
Yeah.
so happy to be back here. I was gone for 11 years, just in Lancaster, but there's a big difference in or whatever. So I'm off all my antidepressants. I haven't taken them for months now. Um, I started taking I was watching Joe Rogan, and
Yeah.
when he was talking to Elon or whatever, and they mentioned something about creatine, I'm like, because this is where the spiritual universe thing, something will come to you like that, and all of a sudden you're like, damn, that's what I need. And I got on my
Yeah.
app and I ordered animal creatine. This before the ambassador thing or whatever. And oh my God, let me tell you what, my mind, I could see letters, like I could write a word. I'm terrible speller, so I have to Google, or before Google was a dictionary, because I am terrible at spelling and then
Right.
see,
Yeah.
pronouncing my word. I'm just terrible
Yeah.
at it. I always have been. I'm trying to get better. But all of a sudden, I could see the letters while I was, texting, or I was like, that has to be the creatine.
Yeah.
Um, I started getting happier or whatever, and I called up my friend, well, messaged Jim Scott at the gym here, and I was like, "You guys still doing memberships, like the key punching and whatever?" So I signed up in there, and I walked in there, and I I was hoping nobody was at the gym. I wanted to go in there and just explore by
Yeah.
myself, but the universe said, no, I'm going to put these five amazing guys that love you to death, and they're going to be happy
Yeah.
to see you. And that's how that happened. So,
That's awesome.
yeah, it was really cool. And it got me talking, and just being back in there doing exercises. I'm like, people don't do this exercise, but this is like old school. This is what works. I don't
Yeah.
like a foo gym. You will never You'll never find me in a Planet Fitness.
Yeah.
I
Right.
just won't go there. It's not my atmosphere. Um I like the hardcore, I like the metal, I like the rust, I like the
Yeah.
dirt, because I
Yeah.
feel like
Yeah. That's
you
good.
know.
That's awesome. Um,
um
so do you write coach? Do you like
I
coach
used to do
anyone
that a
right
lot.
now?
I
Yeah.
have a I have a little briefcase of full of notes and plans, and I have been getting hit to do that again. And
Do it.
I
Do it.
I will. I
Yeah.
will. But I've got a lot on my plate with
Yeah, for sure.
getting myself back into my routines. It's been a month now, and I feel freaking amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome.
um we got the Arnold coming up. I'm still trying to explore my social medias. I want to do my own little podcast. I don't know what the fuck I'm going to talk about, but
Huh.
maybe I'll just take you through my day. So I posted a 15-minute gym thing. um,
Yeah.
I've been, I'm camera shy, but Zach, I saw something, and I just talked to Lauren this morning. I saw this sort of mental health thing, and it said, go take a good hard look at yourself in the mirror and talk to
Yeah.
yourself like you're talking to your favorite person, the person that you love the most. And you're like, oh, okay. Well, I actually did that about a week ago, and I
Yeah.
started crying. I was like, hey, I really love you. I know
Yeah.
I should tell you this more often, and I haven't told you enough. And oh my God, I was
Yeah.
like, oh, it changed and rocked my world when I did that. So I'm like, I do love myself. I self sabotage in the past, and just because I get angry, I get pissed or whatever, and
Yeah.
but that I know that's not me. I do love me, and I need to accept getting older and these wrinkles and whatnot.
Yeah.
And so my mo right now is post it, send it. Don't even. I haven't even watched that video. I watched the first couple minutes just to make sure it was filming, and I took a
Yeah.
little short off of it doing the little warm up, and it is what it is. That's
Yeah.
me. That's
Yeah.
me.
That's kind of how this yeah,
The
that's kind of
heavy
how this is.
breathing.
Once I end it, I'll probably never listen to it again. It's just,
Yeah,
you
but
post it,
I
you
needed
share
a
it, and
starting point. I needed
yeah.
raw footage, so I've got something to work off on as I'm learning this iPhone, as I'm learning these podcasts and the equipment and the light,
Yeah.
as I'm learning it, it'll get better.
Yeah.
My topics will get better, my confidence will get better. And I'm already finding myself like I'm just chilled right now. Like I don't
Yeah,
feel really too anxious. I'm happy and I'm excited as fuck is what I am.
yeah, yeah. It's a lot of fun. Um, well, yeah, this has been a lot of fun. I'm glad you came on. Glad you were able to share your story. Um, is there anything you want to share, end with, or
Come
I
see
never
me
know how to
there.
end these. I never know how to end these, so I'm just like, yeah, yeah, we're
Round of
done. So
applause.
yeah, so if
Um,
there's anything, like if you're at the Arnold, where can they find you? That type of stuff.
Go listen for that loud metal headbanger
Yeah,
music, weights clashing, people screaming. There'll
you're
be
gonna be at
plenty
the
of
Arnold this year,
merchandise.
right?
Yeah, yeah, all 3 days. And
Awesome.
so we haven't worked out all of that. I don't know how if where my help
You'll be
will be
you'll
needed,
be there
or
somewhere.
I will be there. I will be there.
Awesome.
So that's 2025. Here we come.
Yeah,
Here we come.
absolutely.
The
Well,
best of the best.
it was nice having you on, and I appreciate it.
I appreciate you so much. Thank you
All
for
right.
asking me. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I love you.
Thanks. All right. Love you too.
Bye.
Bye.